Hello and welcome back to Focus Atlanta. Again, I am your host, Keisha Lancelin. Thanks so much for continuing to watch. In this segment, we're going to talk a little bit about your health. I'm here with Rebecca Grapevine, and we're going to talk about those cancer screenings.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I got to say, I think that sometimes we avoid the screenings if we're not really having any issues or any problems. And what you're saying is that's not necessarily the right way to go.
Yes, there can be a whole host of reasons people don't get cancer screenings when they should. It can be everything from that fear factor around the psychology, what happens if I'm diagnosed. It can be logistical, it's hard to get time off work, transportation, and cost can be a concern for some people. So there's a wide range of reasons people might miss out on these screenings.
Is this something that we should be discussing with our physicians? Like, should we have a calendar of sorts about, when we should be screened, at what age we should be screened for any particular health issues?
Yeah, it is something, and some of the clinical guidelines for something like cervical cancer may have even changed in the past few years. So it's worth checking in with your physician. Things may not be the way they were when you were younger. But definitely for women ages 40 and over are recommended to get a mammogram each year. And that's because if detected early, it can really improve the outcomes with breast cancer.
To your point, I have noticed that some of the screening timing has changed in, the last few years. I think that sometimes we make assumptions about, whether or not we need to get these things done because the timing has changed a little bit. Is there a place where we could go and maybe learn some more information so that we can feel empowered?
Yeah, for sure. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has really good information. And then professional societies like the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, they also have recommendations that you can look at and see which category you fall into based on your age. With the cervical cancer screenings, some of those have changed depending on whether you've had an abnormal result in the past or not. So there's some personal factors that go into it as well.
And you mentioned something very important, the age, right? I think that some of us have that kind of blaring in our ear, oh, I just turned 30 or oh, I just turned 40. What do I need to do? Is that kind of a good way to gauge what screenings might be coming up for us?
Definitely, that is something that you should take into consideration. Like many other things about turning 40, you have to start to think about your body a little bit more, and that's when those mammogram screenings kick in. And there's some other, reporting I've done about men and prostate cancer. Some of it can vary on your background as well. So it's worth having a conversation with your physician. In Atlanta, some of the health systems have a little bit more aggressive prostate cancer screening guidelines that start with for younger ages for Black men in order to catch the disease earlier and make sure that those men have good outcomes. So take into account your family history, your ethnic background, your lifestyle, your age. There's a lot that goes into it.
Oh, thank you so much for mentioning that because I think that, again, I think that sometimes we forget that the statistics and the information that we may have heard or may know about don't necessarily correlate with our, respective age or our respective ethnic background. And those things really make a difference.
They really do. They can make a difference, with breast cancer as well. Black women, I learned while reporting this piece, tend to have worse outcomes than white women. And that's not necessarily just, a racial thing. It's because sometimes women aren't getting treated as early as they should be. They're not getting screened. They have more difficult time navigating the healthcare system. So one nurse that I heard speak about breast cancer in Fulton County said she is on a mission to make sure every Black woman in Georgia that, needs a mammogram is getting it. She's really committed to that cause because it can improve health.
Oh my goodness, that is so helpful. Well, you know what? I can't let you get out of here though without giving us a website about where we can read some of your work and maybe learn more about these type of things so that we can get on the better side of statistics.
Yeah, that would be great. My website, our website is healthbeat.org, healthbeat with a T.org, and we cover public health here in Atlanta. I'm an Atlanta native covering public health in my own hometown, so I'm a very lucky reporter.
You are. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for making time for us here on Focus Atlanta. It was good to meet you.
It was great to meet you too, Keisha. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we can do something. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of education, right? We can adjust those statistics eventually if we all just get on board and do the things that we need to do for our own personal health. So, learn, take the opportunity to go to the website, learn a little bit more, and stay tuned to more Focus Atlanta. We'll be right back.